Welcome to another episode of Startup Stories, the monthly event that aims to inspire and challenge you through inspiring stories from entrepreneurs themselves. We chat with them about their journey, challenges, and experiences. My name is Rachel, and I'm the host of Startup Stories. Today, we're back in Leuven in Studio Start in the Naamsestraat in Leuven, the place for budding entrepreneurs to get help and information. We're joined by a live audience from whom we'll be taking questions at the end, and for people following online, ask any questions during our chat and we'll address them at the end. Today, I'm joined by Sarah de Greef, co-founder of Yeast.One, who after an extensive academic career studying law, philosophy and management, Sarah's worked in various companies before becoming an entrepreneur and founding Ouzia and later Yeast. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Rachel.
I'm also joined by Sarah's co-founder, Anne van Dessel. Anne is an engineer that went on to work in various marketing positions for companies before embarking on her entrepreneurial journey. Anne is also a Lego serious play facilitator. Great fact. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you very much.
So let's get to know our speakers a little bit more. Sarah, can you tell us a little bit more about Yeast, what you do, for who, and where specifically?
Thank you. Before telling what Yeast is doing, I would like to zoom in a little bit in the word yeast because it explains what we're doing. So yeast is really what you use to make bread. It's the basic of making bread, and it's really the symbol of growth and regeneration. And so just with some water and oxygen and the right temperature, you regenerate. And that's exactly what we want to do in organizations, is make sure that organizations can regenerate. And we do that through working on helping them in strategy and collaboration as a facilitator. So we are really working as facilitators and helping them to come to their best possible regeneration.
Okay, and are there companies that are struggling with particular things that you keep seeing that are coming to you?
I'll give that to Anne.
So what Sarah describes is really what everybody is told in school is a company needs a purpose. Why are you doing things? So that's why there is yeast and why the explanation. What do clients call us for? That's, I believe, your question. They call us for help us in our strategy days. We need some help with an external facilitator that guides us during the discussions, making sure all elephants in the room are faced. Everybody knows that it's something hanging there and nobody's really putting it on the table, but it prohibits anybody else to build on ideas. So we make sure everybody is in 100% participation, that everybody, also the more introvert people versus extrovert. So that's our role as facilitators. That's one element where they call us for strategic facilitation. And that can be to determine a vision or just an update of this or the strategy to determine any topic. Afterwards, you know how it goes. There is a beautiful presentation. All the entire executive committee is convinced, yes, we will conquer the world. And then it needs to be embedded in the organization. So that's another element where we try to help organizations, making sure it's well communicated, that they take the potential change into account, and that there is guidance, enough guidance and communication to make sure everybody can translate it for them. What's in it for me? What's my role in the big or small organization? So that's two elements linked to strategy, aligning and embedding. The second part where we can say we excel in, and why can we say it? Because it's customer feedback. They say you're really strong, is in making sure the collaboration is optimized, that that teams are accelerating in their performance, in their team dynamics, so that at the end, the organization is improving their performance, and that can be defined as they want. So that are the key elements that we got called for.
Okay, and are there clients that you see are coming, you say small and large organizations, or I don't know, specific industries, or is it really a big mix?
we have three types of customers. We have very small, even startups. We here, not so far from here, a biotech company who started and is struggling with the elements I explained. So smaller companies. Then we have the more established ones, where it's more about, here it's building up, there it's more transforming, and then we also have institutional clients. So it's those three categories across all sectors. Since what we do is we work on the context and not the content. So that's why we can help organizations in many sectors, small to very big.
Okay. And where did the idea come from, actually?
It's a bit of a special story. So as you can see, we're not 25 anymore. So we had a career and we met and we just discussed it almost 10 years ago. We met for the very first time. And we worked together for 1 year in an entrepreneurial setting within bpost. So Sarah knows something about the bigger bpost. I don't. I only worked in that small circle. And that's where we discovered the creative thinking methodology and everything that goes with it. And we worked together for 1 year. And then Sarah had the opportunity to go abroad for 4 years to the States. I took on a challenge to assist the company in a retransformation using what we learned. And then we met again, thanks to Ingrid. Ingrid brought us back together. And then we founded Ouzia in 2018. But how we did it, I would not recommend anybody to do, since we just jumped. We had like, this is really great. This is something everybody should know and should apply. So we do it. So you could ask me, so what was your business plan? None. What was your client target? What was your service portfolio? So we just jumped. So would I do it again? I'm not sure, but it was worthwhile, and we're here, and we're very happy to be here, but it was really, really not according to any book.
Okay, but what I've learned from speaking to other entrepreneurs is that a lot of ideas have to fail before getting to an idea that works, and you learn as you go. So making that jump is a first step nonetheless. But what made your decision then to make that switch at that time and make that leap of faith? It was just the idea and getting into it.
So after the experience at bpost, where we learned what the power could have done. We applied it, but in a very small setting, in a very secure, safe environment. I had the opportunity to go to AkzoNobel and to do it again, but on a larger scale for the entire company in Belgium, not worldwide, in Belgium. And so after 3 years successfully doing it, the question was, okay, what do I do? Do I move on internationally on the traditional hierarchy ladder? Do I do it in another company? Or do I do something crazy? And with the three of us, we founded Ouzia. So it was a very non-rational decision.
Okay, interesting. I'm curious, Sarah, how was it for you?
So we worked together, as Anne said, in this entrepreneurial project, innovative project. And then I moved to the States for 4 years, where I worked for a Belgian tech startup. Learned a lot, trying to bring it into the US market. And then we were going to move back as a family. So I have to find a job. I'm going to do something. I didn't want to go back to that company because in Belgium it was kind of an established company, and I really liked the vibe of innovation. So I wanted to do something new. Talked to Ingrid, who was actually the connection between us, and she said, why don't you work with me? Let's try and work on this creative thinking and bring it into the Belgian companies. And so I said, why not? And I remember that I think I came back from the US on August 1, and on August 2nd, we were sitting under a tree in Ingrid's garden going, let's go. So it is a bit of a of a jump, of saying, I believe in something. We strongly believed in the power of that creative thinking. It brought a lot to the project we worked on together. And I continued to work on this theme in the US, going to classes, doing certifications, reading books, and I felt it's so powerful. We really need to bring it in. People really need it. People are so stuck in the way they're thinking, and they lack confidence in what they do. So let's do it. So I think it's really the profound belief in the added value of that creative thinking that made us make this jump.
Exciting. And so I've heard, obviously, Ouzia, there were a lot of challenges. Were there other challenges maybe that you've come across that other people wouldn't expect, maybe with Yeast specifically, or, as an entrepreneur in general?
There are lots of challenges every day. So there is no, it's not a smooth path. It remains a roller coaster. What kind of challenges do we have? The challenge to find clients. I mean, clients are not hanging on the wall. You really have to make an effort. People don't know us. We don't have a name. We have a network, so network helps to find the clients, but still you have to get in there, you have to prove, and every day again, so at the same time we work ourselves as a facilitator in front of executive committees. At the same time we're building the company. When we're standing there in front of the client, every day again it's a challenge. We have to give the best of ourselves. Making sure finances work, making sure all the practical elements work. In the beginning we were doing everything ourselves. So I think everything we do is, even if we have experience, it's still very different if you come from a structure where everything is functioning and you just do your job and all the other things are taken care of. We have to build them. What was not really a challenge, but an easy one, but I'm thinking about, I wanted to say maybe the culture, but I think because we were so aligned on our purpose and why we wanted to do it, that was actually, I think that's the easiest part in the whole story.
Okay, cool. I'm curious to hear from both of you what differences you notice as female entrepreneurs that have successful professional careers, as you said, compared to like the fresh entrepreneurs that coming straight from school and haven't worked for other people.
This one is for Sarah because her son is also an entrepreneur.
Oh, there you go. It's in the family.
Yeah, it's true. So my son, who's 25, started his own business. It's a tech startup in Brussels, and the traditional way is tech startup with investors burning cash and so on. And so it's true. I can compare. What are differences? There are lots of things that he doesn't know anything. Well, I exaggerate, but he really needs to find everything from scratch, trying to understand everything, failing in everything he does, and so I think that's really not easy. It's while we have experience, I think we have more confidence. We're still failing, but I think it feels a little different. It feels a little different. We have like a basic confidence that we will be fine. We will take care of it. We will find out. We will find a solution. And I think as a young entrepreneur, we have a professional network. So you work in a network, you can function in that. So they have to build everything. Everything has to be be built from scratch, and then you have to. And I think for the young ones, what I see another element that's important is you bringing in a product or a service to a client. You're this young guy, and they go like, "Well, you didn't prove anything. Why would I trust you in why would I trust your product?" Well, of course, we look a little older, so we have a little bit more.
Just a little.
We have a little bit more authority and credibility in what we do. And I think that's one of the things that's also not so easy. Like, how do you, as a young person, convince clients that what you did is really, it's worthwhile, go for a trial, trust us, it's going to work. I think convincing them might be much more difficult than if you have a little bit more of kind of an established career, an established network. I think that might be some differences.
Yeah, indeed, definitely. And I can also think of various stereotypes of entrepreneurs, and I can imagine like experienced professionals have more market and business insights. As you said, they you know your strengths, you have more confidence, but maybe struggle with certain prejudices or self-sabotaging beliefs that have, developed over the years, while young starters have grown up for, first of all, much more involved in like the whole digital experience. They may be more open to just try anything because they have to, as you say, but then might struggle, as you say, to gain trust with investors, clients. But I'm curious, are there any other prejudices that you have both come across in your journey, whether it be, in the professional businesses or as an entrepreneur? What have those been?
If you talk to people, you sometimes see it in their eyes. They're like, and what do you do? And how big is your company? Just a 6 to 10 people. Is it a full-time job? Really? So because since we come from professional networks, the context is the people we often talk to also have the same context. It's large, it's established, and we are starting from scratch. And the part that you said that young people might be more open to try and be more curious, I tend to disagree, because we sometimes have to stop ourselves trying and being curious, and that's one of the challenges we have now in moving forward, is how do we productize, how do we standardize, because in the heart of what we do, we would reinvent our company every day. Yeah, that's also not the smartest thing to do. So that part is safe, I would say, but really, like, you left your job, are you crazy? What certainty do you have? Yeah, none. So that's because most of the people work in established functions, are a bit in the golden cage, and we just broke out.
You said I've had enough. And Sarah, yourself, have you come across other prejudices?
No, I think that's really the main ones, and I like the way Anne said, you see it in their eyes when you say, what are you doing? And you go like, okay, should I take you seriously, or are you just... And I think it's also a little bit because you're a woman that they say, are you just having a good time? Like you decided that it's okay now and you're just having a good time and enjoying yourself a little bit, or is this serious business? So that's really a little bit what you continue to say. And then some people just say it, ask the question, and some kind of turn around it. But it's, so even if we have both had like a traditional career and so on, people tend to not always take it seriously.
If I just may add, what we then did is, because it's not nice, the feeling that some people are having either the conversation or strange looks. And what we did is we adapted our narrative along the way, and we discussed it. I tried this narrative, what was the reaction? Now I tried this one, this was the reaction. So that's also very important, we believe, is keeping an open, transparent, fully confident communication line. So we share the good, but also the not so nice experiences, and we build together. And that narrative, in the meantime, is evolved. Yeah, in the meantime, we also have kind of company. So we can be proud of what we have realized. So it's changing. Nevertheless, we still test, like, I had a good reaction, maybe you can try this one next time. Yeah, that worked, but I added this. So that also helps. Really, personally, I couldn't be a lonely entrepreneur. I need somebody at my side.
Same for me.
Oh, good to hear. But curious then, in that network, and as you've grown, have there things that you've decided to outsource? You said you've been willing to try everything, but are there things that you really said, okay, well, this we really can't do, and we're going to let somebody else do it? What were those things, and how did you decide to outsource it or to do it yourself? How do you make that balance?
So we don't have a very formalized decision process. So first of all, you mustn't forget that we worked until 2021 in the first company. So we really needed to rebuild from scratch the new company only 2 years, almost 3 years ago. So although we are doing it for more than 5 years, you need to reinvent. So you learn, you take along. And one of the things we did is we introduced an advisory board, because we wanted this external challenge on you. Even though we are experienced, we don't know everything. It is our first real company, own company. So there we got a challenge to indeed have this conversation, what you should invest in X, get administration out of your way. Since Sarah explained, we did everything ourselves. Everything. We were 2 people, that was it. So that's impossible if you want to grow. So we now have since last year somewhere, Anja, who is our project coordinator, and that has changed our lives. So that's not outsourced, but it is an important decision, because then you have a fixed payroll and it needs to roll. And we are not cash burning, we're how do you say it?
Self-financing.
Self-financing. So that was an important decision. And then a stupid one, but also is automating your invoices. It's stupid, but it helps you enormously. And so it's not only about outsourcing the big things. We have freelancers that work for us in helping us delivering at clients. That's an easy decision, because at a certain point of time you only have 24 hours in a day and you have to get help. And we now have a strong community of freelancers that love working with us. But it's about the small things that eat your agenda, that you're not even aware of. It takes only 10 minutes there, 10 minutes there, an hour a month. That's the one that is challenging, and that's the one you have to tackle. And that we also learned from Veronique. I don't know if you know the book. Veronique Boekstaal wrote a book, The Woman of 1 Million.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. And so thank you, Veronique. We took some learnings also there, like do some time tracking. Are you working in the company or at the company? And that's also conversations we almost daily have. Like, I've been too much in the company. I have to work at the company. So these are the challenges we face every day.
Great. And who is on your advisory board, I'm wondering?
2 people who founded the House of Marketing, I think more than 20 years ago, and then sold it. So they have had the experience of starting from scratch and then selling it. And a person, so these are more our advisory, they are helping us in building the company. And then we have somebody more on content, who is really into the content that we're working with. So we get, as well, content challenges as building company challenges.
Are they friends or people that you consciously said, okay, we need advice on these things, and then we're going to go out and find them through our network? How did you form that?
I don't remember.
So, no, I think the people of House of Marketing are people you knew. I didn't know them. And the content person was the person I met in another non-professional context in a board, where I'm in the board of a non-profit, and he's the president of the board. And I really appreciated his insights, his inputs, the way he was thinking about what we were doing, although he didn't know I was doing that. And so I just asked him, I'm like, well, this is what we're doing. And he said, I'm happy, I'm older, and I really want to help people build companies, and I'm happy to mentor and to be in your advisory board and think with you.
So these people are doing it free of charge, just to be clear.
No.
Okay.
So they're doing it almost free of charge. There is a very small remuneration.
Okay. Just good to know for other entrepreneurs out there thinking, how can I do that? Who should be in there? How do I set that up?
Yeah. So we did. So now that I have time to think, we did think about on having a diverse group. And although the founders are a couple, they are very different. And then adding the third one is in the feedback you get, it's really from 3 different perspectives, and that's what's helping us, because at the end we have to take decision, but we're eager to get feedback and to learn and to do better not better in financials profit, but better in how it works. And that's where we get the input. So we did take it in, we did have discussions on, is this a diverse public to help us at first? And we pay according to market standards.
There's one thing I would like to add, what I think it's important, is that I think there are a lot of people who are ready to help, ready to give their time and their experience, share their experience. And I think you have to be extremely respectful for it. So when I remember it was last time when we had it in somewhere in September. For us, that was a deadline, and we really made sure that we made very, very thorough reflection, made a presentation, thought about all the questions that we had, so that when we were in the meeting, we sent them the presentation. They felt, okay, they're taking this seriously, they've been working on it, we are happy to participate. So don't take these people for granted. Make sure that you use their time in a very efficient way. And I think we have been working a lot, the two of us, to make sure that we had a presentation, even if they had a lot of critique and suggestions and so on. That's not the point. It's just they appreciated the fact that we had done work up front and done serious work up front and presented it up front. And I think that's important, because I think people are happy to share, but you have to respect their time and show that you did your part, so that they can really have added value.
Okay, lovely. And going on forward with that, and you've mentioned, so these people from the advisory board are people from your network. When you came back from the States, you had a network that you could reach out, start trying to find some clients. Ingrid, who brought you two together. So I'm wondering in which other ways that your network has helped you, and how, have you been conscious in building out that network during your professional career, or has that something that you really, made big steps as an entrepreneur specifically? How has that worked?
I think both. Since our professional career was not in the field that we're active in now, you have to bridge your network. And maybe an anecdotic example of how a friend of mine, Stijn Cox from Boondoogle, here in Leuven, maybe you know it, helped us in finding our name. He's in communication, so he's an expert. And in the time that we stopped with Ouzia, it goes at a pace you cannot imagine. So we were, at a certain point of time, the decision was there, but we implicitly anticipate the decision, but forgot to make it explicit, so we didn't prepare. So at a certain point of time, Ouzia stopped. We're like, oh, but we want to continue. We don't have a company, we don't have so back to square one, we don't have a company, we don't have a name. And so again, open conversation, what do we need to do, and how we work, and people that sometimes see us discuss, they say it's impossible to follow, but it works for us. So we have really in-depth, high-speed conversations. And during one of those conversations, it was like, we need to talk to Stan. He's the only one who can help us. We need any, because it's important. It's not just, we could have made it Sarah on consulting. Yeah, that's not really inspiring. And then during a walk, so he was in my network. I got to know him professionally, he became a friend. And that's also something maybe to reach out to other entrepreneurs. You can always call old people you know from the old days. They rarely say no, and if they do, it's probably because they're in a very personal, difficult situation. So Sarah mentioned it. People are very helpful, and at a certain point of time, you have to be respectful and also. Financially, because what they give is not just friendly advice, it's really professional, profound help. But please reach out. If you use the knowing people element on LinkedIn, use it. The only thing that can happen is that you get to know, and then you search further. So network is really, really important.
Yeah.
Yesterday we were discussing, we needed some information, and then we were looking at who can help us, who can help us, who can help us. And then I'm like, do you know this guy? We worked with him together like 10 years ago. She's like, yeah, look at the number. Well, I think my number is more recent. Shall I read? And I just send him an SMS. Hi, how are you doing? Long time no see. Can I call you for a quick question? And he said, yeah, sure. Call me at 12. I called him 5 minutes, gave him the question. He's like, perfect, send me the document. And then today I got an SMS. This person is going to call you. Thanks, bye. And of course, in a couple of months, I will invite him for lunch and so on. But I did speak with this person for 10 years. And people, if you reach out to a person as a human being, like I'm a human being, asking you a question as a human being, people are happy to help.
That's a great example of the power of your network, I think. It's really great. So I've asked the question very often in past episodes to entrepreneurs, what should we be doing to encourage and facilitate more young people to start their own businesses? So I'd love to ask you, both of you, what should we be doing to encourage more professional, experienced people that, have successful careers to start their own business? Was there something that held you back, or that you really know by talking to peers that are holding them back? You've already mentioned the golden cage that people are in. What can we be doing to help more entrepreneurs?
I'm not. It's a complicated question because I don't know whether there was a lot that hold us back.
That's true. So I was also reflecting on the question. Maybe an advice could be is not to think it through too much, because an entrepreneurial journey is by definition a roller coaster. You find elements that are more positive than you thought, but you also find more challenging elements. So if you feel that you are onto an idea or a thought that might help people, companies, try to make something out of it without thinking it through too much, because then you kill the great idea and you probably will not be making something out of it. Because if we would have known, certainly during the period where we were in difficult waters with Ouzia, because now it's easy to talk about it. If you would have called us 3 years ago when we were in those difficult waters, that was impossible to talk about it because it was touching us emotionally. We love Ingrid, and we really said we will build this with the three of us. Yeah, future told otherwise. Is that bad? No. Because she's now flourishing in a new role and we are flourishing in our company. So, but if we would have known that those troubling waters would have come, we never, ever would have started. If we would have known where we are now, we would have started. So it's an entrepreneurial journey. So don't think it through. If you're onto something, discuss with friends, family, fools, network, and make something out of it, I would say.
I think one thing that might hold people back later on in their career is I'm just imagining, because it's the financial insecurity that you're going to, the position that you're losing, because you might be director, blah, 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 in whatever company. You might have lots of advantages. You might have a beautiful car. But I think it is, if you feel it and it's what you want to do, just do it. If it's really aching, and I think you gain so much more than you can lose.
And the point of Sarah is very valid, because many people hold on to titles. And as an entrepreneur, the only title you have is entrepreneur.
But it's a beautiful one.
I love it. But that's the click you have to make in your head, and let go of all the traditional standards, I would say. If you can let go of traditional standards, it's a beautiful journey.
Do you think that anybody can become an entrepreneur? Do you think it's something that that you're kind of almost born with? I see you saying no.
No, I'm hesitating. Because I studied here in Leuven at university, I met my husband there, and we always said he was the one going to start his own company, and I was made to work in multinationals because that was how I was programmed. Well, it's turned out to be the other way around. So that was, on the other hand, what does it take to be an entrepreneur? So as I said, letting go of standards, being able to live with uncertainty, being able, as Sarah said, that what you do from morning to evening is finding clients, because without clients you don't have a company. So it's a constant thing that turns into your head, and we try to help each other in letting go, but that you have to learn to live with. So if you can live with those elements, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm for answering the question, I'm thinking about my kids. So one of them is an entrepreneur, and I'm thinking, would the others become an entrepreneur? I'm not so sure, and I think that's okay. So it's not about you need to do it. I think if you feel it, I'd like to try it, but I still have a couple of barriers. Try to get rid of the thoughts that pollute the passion. But once you have the passion, go for it. Because even like I see my eldest son, he's a person who is he needs to be in control. If there's one thing that you're not as an entrepreneur, is you cannot be in control, because on Monday you think we're going to do this, and on Tuesday there's another client, and on Thursday you ask something else, and so it's changing every day. But he learned to deal with it. He really loves what he's doing. He's very passionate about it. And so we talked a lot about it, and I'm like, well, I think this is one of the things you're struggling with, so try to find a way to manage that for yourself. So I think if the passion to go for it is there, jump and try.
That's great advice. I love this. Going on to a different subject, you already mentioned that yourself financing Yeast. Is the way that you've financed companies changed over time? Have there been learnings? You know, do you have advice, again, for the entrepreneurs listening at home?
We evolve. I will start with how we evolved, and then maybe get to the advice. How we evolved was that although we had lots of experience, our experience was not per se in the domain we're doing now. Not one-on-one. We have a backpack full of that you can use, but so you feel a bit insecure. Can I charge this much? How much is this worth? And so we start from cost plus pricing, and now we have more value-based pricing. So we know what our work is worth, and so we are not afraid anymore to charge it. On the other hand, the self-financing is also a barrier of growth, because as said, we are in a business, we are in a service business, so it's not like a digital tool where we create it once and 1,000 people buy, and the next 1,000 we make, it's almost 100% profit. That's not the case in what we do. So we are now on a turning point in deciding how far can we go with this self-financing, or do we need to talk to investors? What does it mean? Are you willing to let go of your shares, etc., etc.? So it's also a very complicated discussion, and we're in the middle of the discussion and the debate. So the future will tell where we will land.
Oh, that's very interesting. We'll keep following then. But, you know, as you said, starting more than one company, are there any other learnings that, you know, you've taken on, that you've adapted, that you've changed on the way? Yeah, things that you can, again, advise others, that you say, well, this is the thing that we've learned, and I definitely would have done it differently now and would do it for others, and would advise it to others.
Changed a lot. I'm just thinking, what are all those changes? if looking back at the first company, and now I'm speaking for myself because we never had this conversation, if I would go back in time, I think I would try to more quickly cut the collaboration. The reason why we didn't, and that's maybe advice, is we were not friends but really close, the three of us. So there is an emotional link. There is value. That person is very valuable. It just doesn't work in the setting. So it's not denigrating that person, but it was just a setting that made. But if the setting makes it doesn't work, you have to change the setting as quickly as possible. Context is really important. Maybe also I've been fired in my life. Not because I can't perform or I'm worth nothing. The context made that I could not perform, and so I'm still thankful for the CEO that he kept me as long as he kept me. But basically, no, don't do that. Also, as an entrepreneur, and certainly with the founders, if you feel that it's not about 100%, it's about 1,000. I know mathematically it doesn't exist, but it's about 1,000% that you have to be aligned and have that trust and open debate. Very vulnerable and courageous conversations. These make the differences. And so if you feel it's not there, make the tough decision quicker than... That would be one of the advices from what I've learned. That's personal.
That's a really good one. Okay, I think with this all we got for my questions. I'm going to turn to the audience and see if there are any other questions that we have. Do we have any online at the moment? No, just a good luck to the project. That's nice. Here in the audience, any questions? Yes. Okay, so the question is, you've been trying really hard to get a customer in, and then they've suddenly come with a demand that you can't meet, that doesn't fit your offering, and then, have you cut that off then and decided, okay, or did you still try and change your offering and, adapt to get this client in?
Yeah, we are a little bit, from the beginning, we have been adapting to clients, and maybe you have a memory, I don't have memory where we said no. We said, yes, we'll do it. And then we go back and we're like, the client asked this, what are we doing? Let's go for it. We'll find out, we'll make it. So this has been a little bit the way we've been building from the beginning.
Completely correct. However, it was never against our core values, because in your phrasing you said something you wouldn't want to do, that we never had that situation. I don't know why, but we never had a question that really went against our core values or going into bizarre paths. So there's the example of Sarah, and that's we still try to, as I said, challenge is standardization, productization. Our strength is customization, and in the field we're in. So it means that we tap into our experiences, but we adapt our proposal to the context, the sector, the business of the customer, but not against our core values.
Must be because your core values are so clear from the get-go. That's all I can imagine from my experience as well, that if you'd so, well communicated that people get attracted by those things and they don't question them.
Maybe, but I don't recall it. Somebody asked something, and probably at a look, they were like, I'll not ask it again. Maybe, I don't remember.
Another question from the audience, yes. So what is the most challenging part of finding clients? And then when you get the clients in, when you bring them in, yeah, the whole process that goes from there on. What are the biggest challenges?
I think the most challenging is getting the meeting to talk to the client. Once we're face to face, it mostly works. But it's this moment where you're trying to convince somebody to have a meeting because because it's a service and it's a service that's really personalized, you need to be really in front of the client and tell him what you're doing and convincing him. And it's not really convincing, it's telling the stories, and it's mostly listening to the client, what he needs, what are his challenges, so that you can answer that challenge. Because lots of challenges are they're a little bit different, but a lot of them are comparable. The key is really being in front of the client and listening to the client.
So that brings us to the business challenge, and the business challenge is scalability. If you have to have face-to-face meetings to convince clients to become client, it's a factor in your scalability. So that are also challenges that we're thinking about. How can we solve it? We don't know yet.
So the question is, when you're having a really bad day, how do you recharge yourself? Obviously, it's great that you also have each other, but if you're on your own and things are not going well, how do you recharge?
I'll speak for myself.
We recharge differently.
But first of all, I think we are very much aware that it is important to recharge, and we bumped into our own limits, and our limits are different. We bumped into our own limits where we realized we've been too far. We didn't respect our limits, be it emotional, be it mostly physical. So we have to be very much aware of what are our limits and respect them. And recharging is also, it's about taking time. For me, it's going into nature. It's swimming. It's moving. It's getting out. It's reading a book. It's really deconnecting. And it's also, I think, it's a mental process to learn to live with the ambiguity and the insecurity. There are moments, there are weeks that we think like, oh my God, we're not having clients. Oh my God, it's going very badly. And or you make this film for yourself and and it really like pollutes all your thinking, or you find a way to get some mindfulness, breathe, go for a walk, talk to yourself, and instead of going into what I sometimes say is, it's a little bit my mantra, is don't use your imagination as your enemy, use it as your ally. And that's a moment where you really have to be very deliberate in using your imagination as your ally and not as your enemy.
And so I agree, but for me, the simple version is I need to go run. And sometimes my husband says to me, shouldn't you be going for a run? That means that my limits are also reached, and that's really my only true recharge. All the rest, yes, but I know if I lose my running, it's over. So that's something very, very personal. But as Sarah said, it's also about finding what helps you in bringing back the positive thoughts, because that's personally for me the definition of recharging. It's you since it's a journey and it's bumpy road. You have to. There are always positive elements, but it's easy to be drawn into the negative. Oh, our margin has gone down. Oh, that client said no. Oh, we don't have enough prospect meetings. Oh, there. So you have to actively, and yeah, for me it's running.
Great. Other questions? Oh. So has there been a customer that wasn't happy with your service, and how did you deal with it if that was the case?
It was even worse. It was a customer who was not happy, and we were both together facilitating. You remember? GFK? So we had a whole day of facilitation, and we felt during the day that the customer was just not satisfied. So what we did is, I remember we went out of the room and we sat next to each other. It was next to a church. We were on, like, just on the little wall next to the church, watching, looking at each other and go like, well, it happens. So what do we do now? We really wanted to, the focus was on what can we learn from this. So it was not about blaming you did that, you did that. What can we learn from this? What didn't we do well? What can we do better next time? Maybe we need to prepare better. So it was really trying to understand where does it come. We didn't even talk to the client, or just a little bit.
During that day we didn't, but afterwards, because we didn't apologize, but we had an open conversation, or I had an open conversation with the client, also to understand what was he dissatisfied on, because we had our feeling, but you have so there also maybe some advice if you have these kind of situations. Open the conversation also with that person, or that being it internally or a client. Because we learn from that situation, for example, it was not concrete enough at the end. If we had known from the start that you wanted something really concrete. So also learning is in the beginning really aligning on the objective so that it's clear for everybody. And we had an open conversation, and that client was the 4th or 5th time we worked with him. It was the first that he was dissatisfied. But it happens. And it's not a nice feeling. Let's be clear. It's not a nice feeling. And it takes a lot of courage then to have that conversation, but that's one of our values, is if you want to preach open, be transparent, and it's also in difficult situations. So.
Practicing what you're preaching.
My question is actually, how do you manage or help a founder or co-founder in your business when he or she is going through a hard time and it's affecting your business and way of working?
So how do you help each other then, or previous founders, co-founders, when they're having a hard time and it's affecting the business? Have you ever been in such a situation?
I think we've been in such situation. Affecting the business is a very, very broad concept. So I don't think we had situations where affecting the business meant we were going to go bankrupt. So it's mostly the other person is maybe not focused enough, not on top of things, maybe not. Not really present and as sharp as you want the person to be. But I think that's mostly what we have, is having the conversation. What is going on? And be very careful about the well-being of the other person, the needs of the other person. I think in our way of working, the well-being of the other person is always more important than the profit of the business. Of course, not in a way that we can let it go bankrupt, but because that's the strength. So we need to be very, and we're very, the way we're very open in the conversation and very careful about the well-being of the other person.
What helps is we often say, but we use this tool or methodology at a customer where we explain them. For example, focus, we have bullseye, what we use, then you set priorities, and then we're looking at each other. Maybe we can also just, because it helps to bring the conversation from a very touchy, potentially emotional level to a more, to break the tension. We kind of try, but again, it's having the conversation, and it helps since we have a lot of models and methodologies we can throw in. That helps, of course.
I think it also helps just to adjust. So that person knows that the expectations can be adjusted when we're all living up to this expectation, when we're not feeling that it's okay to, I don't need to reach that level for a while, and when I feel better then. So it might help as well. Any other questions? So going a little bit more into detail, sorry, on the calculations, because I know you mentioned you did the cost calculation in the beginning and now it's value. So maybe just giving a little bit more detail.
Because you also referred to, did we use market pricing? Well, to be able to use market prices, you have to know them. We didn't, because we didn't know anything. So in the beginning, we just made some, in our eyes, and it was just the hours we thought we would spend with an hourly tariff, and that multiplied, that got something out, and then we went to the client, and it was like, oh, he accepts, it will be okay. So it was really not very far-fetched or calculated, but not in the calculation way. So we learned along the way how to do better, and we're still learning. Since we're in a human business, not in digital tools, it is evolving. So we try to be also there very attentive. We, for example, in the States, there are very progressive pricing models. We don't believe they will work in Europe, but we investigated them, or sometimes we're trying to pitch something at a loyal customer to see if we can evolve. And that doesn't mean per se increasing your margin, but just a different price setting. So there are two things.
Good question. I saw one question over here. So, sorry, the question was if you jumped too soon and... the question was, there was difference, what was, sorry, let me rephrase. What was the struggles based on gender and age when you jumped? Yeah, when you jumped, what were the struggles based on gender and age specifically?
I've worked in a male professional community, basically male professional community since I was 25, so some years ago. So I never reflected on the fact that I'm a woman, and it is only these recent years that it has become a topic. So I'm struggling with the fact that at a certain point of time, if you're asked a position in the board, is it because of your competencies or because of your women, or because I just become 50, so I am 50 years old? I hope it's for the first. And so I am in favor of diversity, of course, because it adds value to the discussion. It brings a better solution. And unfortunately, since historically we are a white male world, we have to impose through a quota to make it happen. But I've never personally lived it as a pro or con. So nor in my professional, in my first part of the professional career, and now in my entrepreneurial part.
I think when we jumped, I don't think age was a matter in the sense that we were offering a service where it was important to have experience. So the people we work with, the facilitators that we work with us, are all people who have long business experience, long experience of managing teams and so on. And that was an asset in what we were offering. I mean, you don't put, with all my respect for young people, you don't put a junior in front of a management team. It doesn't work. They don't take you seriously, it's not credible and so on. So I think in that sense, what we were doing when we jumped, age was an asset.
Experience was an asset.
Experience was an asset, you're right. Experience was an asset, thank you very much, you're right. Yeah, no, so I think experience was an asset, and being a woman, I think the only thing that we might have, as we said earlier, where people were looking at us, is this serious business, or are you just having a good time? That might be because we are women, I don't know.
But never in a professional conversation. So we never, because that was your question. So it's not I don't know if it's an advantage, but it definitely is not a disadvantage in what we do every day, in conversations we have.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up because we're going around to the hour already. If there are any other questions from the audience, then please come over and ask them afterwards. But thank you to everybody who joined live and online. Our speakers, thank you both very, very much. I'm really, really glad that young female entrepreneurs have examples like you both. Thank you, Studio Start, for the location. This was this season's last episode of Startup Stories. Thank you to everybody that has joined us, listened or watched either on YouTube and Spotify. You can see and hear all the episodes of both our seasons, up till now on those channels. We are going to switch things up for next year's Startup Stories, so keep an eye on our channels and website, or subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date. And if you have any suggestions, please let us know. We're very open as well to change and suggestions. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.